I'm just going to make a very, very quick video. Now, I haven't said anything about the failure of the red wave to show up, but I would like to point out a couple of things. First of all, I really miss the good old days where on election day you would go out, vote, and then the very next day you pretty much knew who won. Now, I find it so interesting that, and this is just one picture that I grabbed, and this came from Kevin Sorbo, who played Hercules, not only in God of War 3, but he also had a TV show, Hercules, right? Ah, yes, voting red except for governor. That makes sense. I think by now it's obvious that the Democrats are using cheat by mail to cheat. Now, it's obvious that Democrats are voting early and Republicans are favoring voting on the day of. It's obvious. See, ultimately, understand what's happened. What they've done is they've taken what should have been election day and they've turned it into basically a month. Now, I personally have nothing against people voting by mail, and I also have nothing against people voting with the absentee ballots or whatever. Because first of all, that's going to happen anyway because the military's overseas; they vote by mail. Then you have a lot of elderly and old people who vote by mail. I've got nothing against that. My thing is that all of the votes should be in and tabulated by election day if you choose to vote early. And that was a criticism that I had back in 2020 when Trump versus Biden happened. Because the thing about it is, and the Democrat, I think it's funny because the Democrats basically already came up with their own phrase and term to describe what they're doing. They call it a red mirage. So basically, here you are. Now, think about this. This is the Arizona race. Now, first of all, I want to point out I heard all types of stories about voting machines not working. I heard stories about voting machines that are running and there's nobody manning them. So, what are they counting? Now, all of those stories are all fine and good. And yeah, there's probably problems and issues with these election machines, right? But my thing is, Kevin Sorbo points out an excellent thing. He's like, wait a minute. How the fuck did these people vote straight up and down their ticket Republican, except for the governor? Does that make any sense whatsoever? Of course it doesn't. What happened in Georgia, for example, Herschel Walker versus Warnock. Neither one of them, I believe, thought that there was going to be a runoff. The Libertarian candidate basically spoiled that election in similar fashion to how Bernie Sanders basically spoiled the election for Hillary Clinton. Because the thing about it is, just by sticking around, Bernie Sanders was able to siphon off enough of her support where he's here offering fucking handing out money here left and right. And the people who should have been there to vote for Hillary Clinton were like, yeah, well, if she's not Bernie Sanders, if she's not as leftist and as radical as Bernie Sanders, well, then I'm not voting. Well, in this case, we've got Herschel Walker versus Warnock. And I'm really not sure who the libertarian hurt more in this. See, ultimately, what ended up happening is by neither one of them being able to get 50% of the vote because of that libertarian candidate. I'm not even going to mention his name because it's not worth mentioning. I never heard of him before, so it doesn't really matter now. What ended up happening was they're forced into a runoff. Now the Republicans and the Democrats are both going to throw as much money at Georgia as they possibly can. I don't feel that that's going to change the way any of the people who voted for Walker vote, and I don't think it's going to change the way any of the people who voted for Warnock vote. It will, however, possibly change the way people who voted for whoever that libertarian candidate is voted. And I'm not going to mention his name because it's really not worth mentioning. I'm not even going to bother. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, yeah, well, if you're the libertarian or the third party candidate and you believe that your presence is going to hurt the election, then what you really should do is consider whether or not you really want to run. No, first of all, you absolutely should run because otherwise we'll always be stuck with this two-party system bullshit, which has basically bankrupted the country. So I personally believe that a third party should exist, but ultimately a third party can't exist because this country works by majority vote. So that means that the third party candidate can either hurt one or the other, Or maybe themselves, they could possibly win, but chances are that's not going to happen unless they're extremely charismatic. And ultimately, the issue becomes, if you have to have a majority vote, then the third party will ultimately become the second party, and you'll still be stuck with two. So that's part of the reason why none of this shit works. But this election has only highlighted the fact that what we really need to do is make it so that all election results are prepared for the next day. There is no reason why today is 11/17, and right now I'm just finding out that the Republicans have taken the House. So once again, today is November 17th, and I'm finding out today that the Republicans have taken the House. I have never had to sit this long to wait for the results of the Congress to come back. Never. This is in my entire life, 41 years, I've never had to wait this long. As far as I'm concerned, all votes need to be in by election day. If you want to do early voting, I have no problem with that. If you want to do it absentee ballots, I have no problem with that. All of those votes should be in by election day, and the results of election day should be ready the next day. There is no, but see, they've turned election day into election month. All that's done is open up the possibility of cheating. It's opened up the possibility of conspiracy theories. And that is not what voting is supposed to be like in an American election. That's not what it's supposed to be like. Even the Iraqis have better elections than we do. You go in, you vote, and you poke your finger in some purple dye to make sure that they know that you already voted. You can't vote again. What we're seeing right here is absolute bullshit. Now, they were poo-poo, and I said this from the very beginning. They were poo-pooing the red wave, right? Oh, yeah, the red wave never happened. Ha, 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 it never happened. It was more like a red splash. Ha, ha, ha. But I knew all along. I was like, wait a minute. Y'all are being really premature. They didn't get the House or the Senate results at that time, and now you're learning that the Republicans took the House. They were poo-pooing the red wave, when even in the back of my mind, I knew the Republicans didn't need a red wave. All they needed to do was take the Senate and the House, or one of the two, Senate or the House majority. And once you do that, it throws enough of a wrench into the Democrats' plans that they can't progress the same way they were progressing, running us deeper into debt and letting people like Nancy Pelosi run their insider trading with NVIDIA and just walk away scot-free. Now, what you're seeing right now, and no, I want you to notice, these elections still haven't been fucking completed. This is ridiculous. It is November 17th, and we're still waiting for results. Are you kidding me? Well, how many votes did you have to count? Oh, no. We're waiting for the votes to come by the mail. Yeah, okay, sure. And I'd also like to point out something else. While apparently fact-checking takes less time than counting votes. So a couple of days ago, on November 15th, I shared this photo right here that you've seen going around. And automatically you get attacked by Facebook fact-checkers. A day ago this happened. So they waited about 24 hours. And, oh yeah, Facebook determined your post has false photo and all that bullshit. Now, meanwhile, first of all, I'd just like to say, Facebook, Twitter, and a couple, I think Amazon, a couple of these other companies, they've already said they're laying off 10,000 or 11,000 people or something. I would just like to say, I hope you lay every single one of these bastards who gave me a 30-day ban on Facebook. I hope you lay all of them off, and I hope they're in a welfare line waiting for a loaf of bread and waiting for a cup of milk. This was the photo I put up. U.S. tax dollars at work. So you've got the Sam Bankrupt fraud who's donating money to the Democratic Party, backs Biden, and then Biden is giving more and more of our tax dollars to Ukraine for a war that they've already lost. And then it keeps going in circles. Sam Bankrupt fraud, who should be thrown into a jail cell right now for misappropriation of resources and tax evasion. Sam Bankrupt fraud gives money to the Democrats. Democrats support Biden. And Biden's giving our money away over to Ukraine so that Vladimir Putin's still rolling them over. I just like to point that out. I had to point that out. Last thing I'm going to say, Nancy Pelosi is fired. Now, personally, I wanted to see the Republicans take the Senate, get rid of Schmuck Schumer, and I wanted to see Nancy Pelosi get fired. I wanted to see them both gone, Senate and House. However, because of these fraudulent elections that we're watching still taking place, well, it looks like I won't get my Schmuck Schumer. I won't get rid of him right away. But at least they got Nancy Pelosi. I don't want to see her ever again. I think at this point she's done. She's done. I think old age, and she needs to go and nurse Paul Pelosi or whatever his name is. I think she needs to go nurse his wounds after that guy attacked him with the hammer and whatnot. But no, I don't want to see her anymore. I don't want to see Schmuck Schumer no more. I don't want to see her anymore. I think it's time for us to get rid of these old-ass neocons. There is no reason why we should be at the brink of freaking World War III with these dumbass, old-ass neocons. There's no reason for it. Then what is this? It says several conservative social media accounts were celebrating the end of Nancy Pelosi's tenure as House Speaker on Thursday, after it was announced on Wednesday night that the Republican Party had won back control of the House of Representatives by a slim majority. Most claim Pelosi has been fired. Yes, that's right. She's been fired. Good. It's about goddamn time. I swear it again. We need to pass a law that says that early voting, all of that needs to be done by election day. This shit about putting out ballots and whatever, like maybe a day or 3 days or whatever it is before election day, and that stuff not getting to you on time, this is bullshit. All of that should be in and tabulated by election day. Because until they straighten this shit out, there will always be doubt and there will always be conspiracy theory about whether or not our elections are, how should I say, legitimate. Because right now, there's something seriously wrong. Kevin Sorbo, Hercules saw it. I knew something was wrong. And it's pretty much, I'll say this. When I saw, back in 2020, when I saw how they were going to use COVID to influence elections, I knew right then and there Trump was not getting a second term. And it's sad because all these people who don't understand how I think strategically, as a chess player, they couldn't understand what I was talking about. I had to argue with all these dumb motherfuckers, had to argue with them. Oh, yeah. I was like, there's no way he's winning. And they're like, oh, what are you talking about? His economy doing great. His economy doing great. It's the greatest economy. And I kept telling him, I was like, yo, stupid, you don't see what I'm seeing. I'm telling you, they are going to cheat. They're going to do something. Didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. Look what happened. COVID comes out, vote by mail, cheat by mail, vote at this, ballot dumps, ballot box drop-offs, all this shit. And now look. And then at the end, nobody even wants to admit that I was right. Because I told you, I was like, yo, these motherfuckers are cheating. Like, I know what it looks like when somebody's about to start fucking cheating. I had to argue with all these stupid assholes. Oh, no, but the economy's doing great. It's doing great. It's doing great. It's the best economy. I was like, yo, guys, you're not seeing what I'm seeing. Something's about to happen. These motherfuckers are about to cheat. It took as long as it took for y'all to figure out that I was the one who was right. I'm not even going to bother talking about it, but I think it also goes for saying that I was right about cryptocurrency too. Oh no, it's going to 100,000. We're going to the moon. We're going to Mars. Where are you now? All of my detractors who tried to say I was wrong, where the fuck are you now? Where are you? Exactly.